Welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast, featuring inspiring interviews with Etsy shop owners, hosted by Ijama Elazu.
Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of the Etsy Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Ijama, and thank you for joining me this week. Before I go ahead and introduce my guest, I just wanted to say, if you're on Twitter, please talk to me on Twitter. I'm on Twitter. You can reach me at Convo Me Podcast. And if you're on Facebook, I'm there as well. You can just find the Facebook page. It's Etsy Conversations Podcast. You can talk to me there too. I like interacting with you. And so those are some additional places that you can reach out to me if you're in those outlets. My guest this week is Mary. Mary runs the Etsy shop Cranky Haze, and I've already told her we're going to talk about the name of her shop because I'm curious. And her shop has been open since March 7th of 2011. She has 319 sales to date with 77 five-star reviews and currently has 756 admirers. Mary, thank you for joining me and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So can you briefly introduce yourself?
Okay, well, my name is Mary. I live in Montreal. I've been a painter, making art, more in the contemporary art scene with galleries and grants and all that for quite a number of years. I started Cranky Haze as a way to distribute my art in a more kind of ground level, grassroots way, just sort of like a merch, smaller items that are not as expensive as original paintings, right, or just very small paintings, so that people that not necessarily involved in going to galleries and museums and things might find something that they like.
Oh, cool. And you started your you started your Etsy shop when was it when you were undergoing treatment or after?
Actually, that was an additional. Well, I had been wanting to do just smaller things. That the way it started was for several years. I have a friend who's a sculptor, and he would do these fairs, and we would sell these little bike bells that he made. And I always thought that was such a nice compliment to doing these larger pieces, and I was really jealous. I wanted to find a way of something I could do. In the meantime, in 2009, I was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, and with the subsequent treatments, I had very little energy, but I was also, in 2010, I had to have a stem cell transplant. Wow. Using my brother's stem cells, which meant that I had no immune system for a while. So I couldn't teach for several months, and the shop became a way to make a little income while I was in quarantine.
Wow.
It also was, since I had very little energy levels, making these small things like the jewelry was a way to just keep me being creative while I recovered.
Wow. That's amazing. Are you fully recovered now?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, very good.
Still have to be careful with some things, but feeling really great. I'm not on any medication anymore.
Okay.
And I feel like I've got my new life. So.
Wow, that's excellent. And then you just decided to stay on Etsy, which is great.
Yeah. It's actually I just find it, for me, more comfortable way of getting my artwork out there than going through galleries. Not necessarily that I wouldn't ever be in a gallery, or just approaching galleries seems very daunting these days. There are many artists out there and not a lot of galleries, at least in Montreal. And approaching them just seems like they just get so many people approaching them every day that it seems kind of pointless. Okay. But just being more autonomous and putting my work up through Etsy and other online venues, it just is a lot more. It's just more plausible, and it's just easier for me to.
Okay. And you collaborate with your daughter on the shop, or she helps you in some capacity.
Yes, yeah. She started, like when we started, she was 2011. I guess she was 14, 15.
Uh-huh.
And so it started just, I would get her to model things for me,
Oh.
jewelry.
Mm-hmm.
And she's very photogenic, so that's helpful.
Yeah.
And then when the shop gets busy, I help her. She helps me package things. And then at fairs, she's really great. She's actually better at some things than me, like sales. She's a very sweet person. She's got more of a touch to wrapping things up carefully and neatly. And
Oh, nice.
I'm a bit of a slob, so she's actually a perfect partner. And now that she's older, I'm getting her to get more involved in other things too.
Oh, that's good. That's nice. So it's become like a nice family business.
Yes, because with teenagers, it's not easy to always find things to do together, and so this is it's a nice connection, I find.
Oh, nice. So tell us specifically what you sell in your Etsy shop.
Well, I'll tell you, I started, like when I first decided to open an Etsy shop, I just had some scans of like paintings I've done, and I just threw it up and, put something like, made a shop name like Art by Mary Hayes or something. And I quickly realized that this was not, like, I looked around at other shops and I saw how polished they were, and I said, okay, this is really lame. I can't do this. And I still wanted to find something that was more functional and affordable. So I was just perusing around on Etsy, and I found these little pendant tray kits where you can put something like a photograph into a pendant, and they have them as earrings and things like that. So I ordered some of those, and I started making reproductions of some of my watercolors as pendants.
Oh.
So that was the first thing I listed, as well as some of my original artwork. Then just by accident, I started. I had this really old dictionary that I inherited from my family, and I just tried putting some words and images from the dictionaries into the pendants, and those really took off. They're still my bestseller, and it's evolved so that like I cut each little words out and make collages of quotes, or if someone sends in a nickname they want, or something they want to say to somebody as a message, I collage it out of the old dictionary with the old typography, things like that. So I make those, and then in the past year I've started transferring some of my images from my paintings onto old vintage plates that I find. So it's just to combine the old design of the plate with my own painting, and use often there's like a floral border on a plate, so it makes like a little frame. And so I kind of just try out things.
Right. I see you have a very eclectic collection of things.
I mean, sometimes I think it's probably weird compared to other things, but for me, it's really just I don't care so much. It's just I'm trying things out that I think, oh, maybe this is kind of fun to make. I hope someone likes it.
I like the dictionary pendants, and I had wanted to ask you about that, how you decided upon that, but you just explained, because like you said, it looks like it's from a really old dictionary, because I'm like, that does not look like Merriam-Webster when you look at it, but it's very nicely done.
I've had about at least 10 dictionaries now, because they're not being used, and you can find them and finding them in garage sales and things, and they got such beautiful typography and old illustrations that I find it's a shame to throw them out. But they're not very functional. It's so much easier to just look up a definition online, right?
Right.
So I sort of like the whole idea, and I like the idea of recycling and using, not throwing things away, and
right.
same thing with the plates. So I like to find these old things and transform them.
And then the plates, when you put your prints on them, they're just for display, right? They're not for
Yes.
actual use. Okay.
Yeah, I would love to make, I'm learning how to make things like that are more functional, but at
Mm-hmm.
this point, it was just the decorative aspect. To make them functional, takes a lot more resources and know-how, so I'm not there at this point, but maybe someday.
Okay.
Functional.
So when you originally opened your shop, it was kind of a therapeutic thing for you. It was a way to bring in some income while you were home and quarantined. Now, what's the goal you have for your shop? Is it to do Etsy full time, or is it just for supplemental income? What? Yeah.
Yeah, I think as an artist, I've always had lots of different revenue streams, and I'm comfortable with that because I'm not a huge marketing person, even though I'm really working on developing those skills. And I don't think I would completely give up teaching, or I also do set painting for theater, so I like doing those things part-time. Um, I like to have more sales from Etsy.
Okay.
I don't know if I'd want to do it full time.
Okay.
Maybe one day.
Yeah.
I know it's a lot of work, and a lot of that work is sitting in front of the computer and working on your SEO and
Right.
contacting blogs, and those are all very important. I mean, there's always any kind of job there are things that you don't like as much.
Yeah.
So I'm just sort of seeing how it goes. I want to get it better. I want to get more of a presence and definitely more sales.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not like as driven as some of my teammates are.
Okay.
Real dynamo people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. But then
good.
everyone's goal is different. So that's why I'm starting to ask, because I realize that not everyone goes into Etsy for the same reasons, and different people have different reasons for doing it. So it's nice to know that. How do you manage your time between running an Etsy shop and the other projects that you have on the side? Not on the side, but the other projects that you're doing.
Well, what I try to do, I try to, it doesn't always work. I try to get up early and just spend at least an hour in the morning doing some creative work, because that's something that is like sort of at the crux of everything, but it can so easily be pushed aside because it's not urgent. So I try to do a little of that first. Sometimes it's 4 hours, sometimes it's 1 hour. And then I have just my lists of all the other things I need to get done. Try to spend, at least get a few listings up or a couple listings up a day on Etsy, or work on my, revamping my banner, or, something. So I always spend some time on Etsy almost every day. Okay. And then there's just correspondence and planning my classes and doing the family household stuff.
What classes?
I teach art.
Oh, okay.
So that's one of my other jobs.
Oh, okay. Nice. So when you're creating a new piece, if it's jewelry or a plate, what inspires you to create something?
I'm always interested in, I don't know, I'm interested in history. I'm very interested, especially these days, in the environment. I like things that are very traditional, like, classical art, but I like the kind of subversive nature of things too, just kind of making a commentary, but very, very subtly, so not, it's not hitting you in the face.
Right.
I see like a lot of my pendants are pictures of animals, but just mostly because the composition might be really beautiful.
Okay.
And I'd like to allude to fairy tales and just magical. Try to make it look kind of magical, but every day at the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
The focus of the shop is alluding to making it look kind of real through like historical references, but at the same time maybe from another world or fairy tale world or something. I don't know if I'm explaining it very well.
Well, yeah, it reminds me, and the name is escaping me, and I wanted to look it up before we started talking. There's a movie that came out recently that your shop reminds me of because they combined fairy tale characters with reality. And I just don't remember what it was called. But yes, that does come through.
Okay, good.
I've
always liked something. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I've always been like wanting things to be magical.
Uh-huh.
But I find it has to be a little bit real, like gritty or even dirty or dusty sometimes to make it look believable.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah.
Do you, are you branching out into new product lines? Do you have any ideas of additional lines that you want to start making?
Yes. I'm working on, it seems like I have too many things at once, but I'm working on a series of, you've seen, there's some up right now. They're kind of animal circus, half animal, half human.
Yeah, I see those.
Portraits.
Yeah.
And once I get a good printer, I want to have, enlarge this series, but also have prints available of those.
Okay.
And I'm also working more on the ceramic end. I'm trying to develop some tile work that is more illustrations, but looking like traditional tiles, the Dutch tradition, and that are more functional than the ceramic pieces I have up now. So I've been taking courses on printing on ceramic, and I'm just working on some ideas, but I don't know how long it's going to take. Things always take longer than...
When you say, yeah, they do. When you say the Dutch tradition, you mean like the Delft blue?
Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely.
Just like that there's these scenes from everyday life on them.
Yes.
Blue.
Yes.
So I'm just painting scenes from life in Montreal, and some of them a little bit kind of whimsical or magical a bit, but some very more real. So.
Oh, nice. Oh, yeah, that would be good. And the characters that you're doing now, the ones that combine human with some type of animal, those are strictly all oil paintings right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're all oil paintings, and so they're a little more pricey.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why I would like to make prints, because that's more in the price range of your ordinary Etsy customer.
Right. Okay. Do you have you seen other Etsy shops that sell things similar to what you sell?
Well, I've seen lots of dictionary, they call it dictionary art.
Oh.
And quote, like pendants that have quotes from, or dictionary definitions. But they usually look like they've printed it out on a paper, so the paper looks new.
Okay.
I don't think they cut every little word out. I think you have to be kind of nutty to do that. But I really love doing it. I find it relaxing.
You would have to love doing that too.
I have fun. As for the art ones, I'm actually really inspired by several shops on Etsy, but I don't think I don't know. There are things, it's kind of work that I would be, very similar to what I've been doing for many years. And it's like, so when I see shops like Berkeley Illustration or the Black Apple, I was like, oh, I do that. But okay, well, they're doing well with that. I can do that too. So it was more like a kind of encouragement to.
Oh, good.
Okay, I can. You can sell art on Etsy.
Yes, you can. Have you had any bad experiences up until this point on Etsy?
Really, I've had, there's been an odd customer that wasn't happy with their sale. It's happened maybe one or two times, but it's always been able to work it out. And,
yeah,
I never had anything really bad.
Okay.
I mean, there's been a couple of things like spam, people trying to contact you for something that doesn't seem legitimate, but that's everywhere. So
right.
I never had anything bad.
Have you ever had to deal with any disputes or negative feedback?
I never. There was just, there was a couple times where someone who got a pendant and it wasn't what they expected and they didn't want it, and so I just said, "Well, send it back and I'll reimburse you," and
Okay.
it was fine. So I never. I mean, no.
Okay.
I think I really think the way it's set up and the support you get is very good for handling all these things.
Yeah. And I forgot to ask you what I wanted to ask you. Now, you sound so not cranky. Why is your Etsy shop? How did you arrive at the name Cranky Haze?
Oh, it's the best selling point, the name of my shop. It started just, well, it's my daughter that named me that. And it started actually because I was trying to think of a name, and it was actually for my Gmail account. And she said, and I said, "Oh, I can't find a name because there are a lot of Mary Hayes out there. And it's making me cranky." But it says, "How about Cranky Haze?" And I was like, "Yeah, that has a nice ring to it."
Yeah.
The thing is, I am someone who can get cranky pretty easily. Like if I don't get enough sleep or I haven't had enough exercise, I do get cranky. But only people who know me really well see it, so it's kind of like an inside joke.
Oh, okay.
But I just thought it had a nice ring, and then when I started selling one year, I went to the fair I decided to try to sell some stuff, so I just didn't have a name, so I put a sign to Cranky Haze, and it made people laugh. So.
Yeah, I bet that was a hit. Yeah, I know. When I first saw your email, I did a double take. I'm like, should I call her Cranky Haze? I mean, I barely know her. It's a hard, it's not a nice way to start off.
I don't, if I'm applying for a serious job or someone that I don't know, I don't always use that email.
Yeah. All right. Now, so Mary, how do you promote your Etsy shop?
Well, I have a Facebook page. I'm on Twitter. I started on Instagram recently.
How's that going?
Instagram is fun. I mean, I'm kind of new at it, so I don't have a lot of followers. But I find it's the best for content because then I take pictures of what I'm doing, or at a fair, or what's inspiring me, and it's just it's a lot more interesting on my end, at least.
Okay. Do you find that going to fairs and participating in fairs helps to cross promote your Etsy shop? Like when you see people live, do you promote your Etsy shop as well?
Yeah, for sure. Okay. I always do. I say, if you want something made specially, I do custom work, and I give them a card for Etsy or a coupon. And I think it works. I find that when people can actually see something and hold it, it's great, And
yeah.
Some of my best customers, like one of my best customers, she came to a fair that was actually a really badly promoted fair, so hardly made any sales at the fair, but she picked up a coupon, and since then she's bought, I don't know how many pendants from me because she loves the work. So
oh, nice.
I think fairs are really great.
Okay. Have you found that, other than Instagram, where you're just starting out, Facebook, Twitter, any other social media that you're on have helped to promote your shop and get it in front of more eyeballs?
I think Twitter, I probably should be doing more than I actually do, but I know that Twitter is, using the hashtags, and if you have something, I'm doing something with a dog, a picture of a dog, and then I put, dog, a particular kind of dog hashtag, then those people who are in those forums will see it. Mm-hmm. And I've had people retweet and favor it and everything that might not necessarily otherwise come to the shop. So I think Twitter seems to be effective. So Facebook, it's funny because we've been talking in our team on Etsy for the last little while, saying it doesn't seem to be as interesting as it used to be, especially since now they've changed
They've
the
changed it.
algorithms, so it's harder for people to see.
Right.
Yeah, just did this promotional event where I comment and like my page. I'll offer. You can do a draw for a free pendant,
Hmm.
and I had a coupon, so I boosted the page. But even so, I didn't get the kind of interaction I was hoping for. So I
Yeah.
don't know if Facebook for commerce is necessarily the way to go anymore.
Yeah. Facebook, it's harder than it used to be.
Yeah,
Um,
it's changed a lot.
right.
I think it's more of a kind of a social thing now. I don't know if I will spend much more time on Facebook these days.
Yeah.
I do get people approaching me. It works best like people who have seen me at a fair and they want something and they contact me through my page and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah. I haven't cracked the new Facebook code yet.
Yeah.
It's different. Now, do you have a website or a blog? I know that you're on, it's like an art collective website, the Saatchi Art.
Oh yeah, the Saatchi Gallery is a big gallery in London, and they're really great. They have an online option where artists can upload their photos, and they have this online gallery. It's a lot like Etsy that way, and but uploading it's kind of slower to upload, and you have to write something about the thing, and so I have some things up there that I should add to. It's like one of my resolutions for the summer, and then I have my own blog that on Tumblr.
Okay.
But I'm changing that because I want to change the name of it. I don't like the name, but I want to make it get different kinds of content on it that's more interesting. So I started my the first of a series where I'm interviewing different artists in their studios, just to see just the space to kind of break. There's a bit of a myth about the artist studio. I feel that it's very luxurious or beautiful all the time. I want to just show that lots of people are doing great work in their kitchen or, in a little place corner of their basement. And, I want to just get a conversation going on what people are doing and what they're creating. So I did a little post about a couple weeks ago of a friend of mine who's doing these beautiful little paintings out of her kitchen.
Wow. So will these interviews be video interviews, or they're going to be not print, but blog posts?
I would just do the first one because I procrastinated so long on doing the first one and wanted to do it so long that I finally did it just with Instagram.
Okay.
And it worked really well. I was happy with it. It's just super simple. I don't know if it worked on the viewer's end, but I kind of did it backwards by, take a picture with a caption and another, it's a series of maybe 4 or 5 photos with caption all about this person and what they're doing in their studio.
Oh.
And I posted it on my Tumblr page, and then had links to Twitter and the Facebook page. So,
okay, and I'm going to have links to all of Mary's social media accounts and her Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram, everywhere she is, and the Saatchi Art too. So if anyone wants to check them out, they'll be in the show notes for this episode. About how much time would you say you spend working on just Etsy?
Just on the computer or making things as well?
Everything Etsy related. So creating, shipping, answering convos.
It depends. Say around Christmas, it could be maybe 40 or 50 hours a week.
Wow.
In the summer, now, it's pretty slow, and I'm just doing other things, so it's maybe more like 15, 10
Okay.
a week. So it varies greatly.
Okay. Are you currently starting to ramp up for the Christmas, the holiday season coming up?
I should be. I read there was a little blog post about that, and I was like, oh yeah, I better. Everybody,
Yeah.
why didn't I do that? And so, um, with the new projects that I've discussed with you before, I'm trying to get those going, and I'm hoping to have some new work, like just have a whole new line of stuff ready for at least the fall.
Okay.
As for, and then I have to, yeah, sit down and like think of, ordering all the packaging I needing and,
Yeah.
that stuff. And yeah, really stock up in the summer when it's quiet.
Okay.
So the
Yeah.
answer, yeah, sort of.
Well, at least it's on your mind, and that's a
It's on my
start.
mind. It's on my mind.
Have you ever considered closing your Etsy shop or leaving Etsy?
I did actually, excuse me, last August, the end of August, my daughter got a scholarship to study in China for a year. And when she left, I didn't want to do Etsy anymore.
Oh.
I just thought, well, that's the end. I don't see myself doing this without Katie around.
Mm-hmm.
And so my kind of plummeted. I didn't really invest much time in the shop and took for a few months. And then I started to get back into it. I was like, no, this is silly. I can. So it was a few months where it just was discouraged. But
Okay. Is she back now?
she's back, yes.
Okay. All right. Good. So no more Cranky.
No, I'm not cranky anymore.
So when you get a new idea for a print or a pendant or something that you want to make, how long typically does it take you from the time you get the idea to actually creating the piece and then listing it on Etsy?
I'm very slow. I wish I was faster, but for the pendant, that's the fastest things because they're very easy. So it might take me between getting the idea and then actually sitting down and doing it, maybe a week, and then
Okay.
depending what my schedule is, I might photograph it right away, or I might just sit on it for a while and think about, is that, appropriate for Etsy, or do I want to put it in the store instead, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
As for the other things, it takes quite a while, like drawing up a new idea, or just sketching ideas, and then making them more concrete, and then depending what the process is, it's several months sometimes.
Oh, wow. Okay. And I would imagine the oil paintings too take a while.
Yeah, oil painting is slow.
Okay.
Um,
Do you have to do it in layers?
yeah, I like to paint in layers because it gives a lot more of a depth to the painting,
Okay.
and I want that to show. So I decided back when I was sick that I wasn't gonna be stressed out about Etsy. It's just gonna be my window, my little store window, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to wrap things up now that I'm feeling more energetic.
Okay.
But I really admire some people I know on Etsy that are just really so
Prolific.
prolific and
Yeah.
fast, and they're just go for it and just
Yeah.
a little bit more.
Yeah. Yes. And yeah, and I think it's good because we can look at other people and get inspiration from them too. Do you ever find that you get in a creative rut, and how do you get yourself out?
Yeah, I've been an artist for so long that there are definitely times where just don't have ideas. I just usually take that as a time and a signal that I need to back off and do other things, and just to feed my brain. So
Mm-hmm.
I try to go to museums or plays, movies. I go for walks. Sort of. I think it's try to do the other stuff that's not creative. Just
Yeah.
get things done. Clean the studio. Yeah.
Okay. What would you say are some of the things that you've done or are doing now to set yourself up for success going forward?
I'm just trying to work on myself. That
Okay.
sounds a little bit, because I tend to doubt myself a lot, and that's just a kind of lifelong thing. So I'm sort of trying to let those doubts go and just be a little bit more aggressive and proactive, and approaching stores and blogs and things to make this work for myself.
Oh, nice. Oh, good. Yeah. It takes, what was I going to say? When you say approaching stores, do you mean like to carry your artwork?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, because I find it's nice to complement the online stuff with things in local retail
Okay.
outlets.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So what's one lesson you'd say you've learned from selling on Etsy that you learned the hard way?
Pardon? Sorry, my daughter's watching.
Oh, it's okay.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
It's just the ambient sound.
Yeah.
What's one lesson that you've learned the hard way from selling on Etsy?
Well, it's that it doesn't matter how good or how strong your work is if you don't promote yourself. And I think that's been the bane of my artistic life. I've always just thought that, if you're good, then you'll succeed.
Right.
And someone will find you. And that's a lesson I've had to learn over and over and over again. And I think it's finally sinking in that promotion and marketing is something that takes me outside my comfort zone, but it's just a necessary part of the job. So
yeah,
that's something that's what I've learned.
That's a good one. Yeah, because you're right. I think a lot of people not just jump onto Etsy, but even just selling online, think, oh, well, the world is online, so the world will find me. And no, the world will not find you.
No. No, and even offline.
Even offline, right?
Talented people there that they don't, that this never gets seen because they're not putting it out there.
Right. Yeah. What if you had a choice, or if you could ask Etsy to implement a feature that they don't currently offer, what would that be? What would you like to see Etsy?
I wish I had the answer. I'm sure there's something, and I read that in your questions, and I'm sure in a week I'll come up with something.
Well, that's okay. If you do, you can always put it on the page.
I do think they really have a lot of great tools, and they always
They
seem to
do.
come up with new things, and it's actually the most supportive environment I've ever worked in terms of selling art. I've worked with galleries before. I've worked with other artists, and it's just a really great community.
Okay.
I know there's always room for improvement, and I wish I could think of something right now.
Oh, that's okay, because I actually like it sometimes when people are just happy with everything the way it is. It's a good sign for the people at Etsy. I don't know if they listen to this podcast.
No.
I don't know.
One thing would be good. There's one little thing is when you're listing, if you could just save the draft when you're halfway through, that would be really great.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes you get called away and you can't finish your listing and start all over again.
Okay.
That's the one thing. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one. Now, okay, if someone is currently considering selling on Etsy and they're kind of sitting on the fence, what advice would you have for that person?
I would say to really just take your time and look at all the other stores, look at what other people on Etsy are selling in your category. Look about, make sure you can have access to a good camera and, work on all those things. But don't worry about, there's also just do it. You can start and, don't worry about if it's not perfect right away.
Right.
and read a lot of the forums and the blogs, because there's so much information, and the teams are great too.
Yeah.
So yeah, just I don't know. Everybody's different, but it's good to just inform yourself, I guess.
Yeah. Knowledge is.
And don't get discouraged. That's another thing.
Yes, don't get discouraged.
It's work, so.
Okay. Now, what's something that you're doing right now that you think is working really well for you?
In terms of anything?
Mm-hmm.
I think my photos are getting better.
Okay.
Just incorporating things like our pets and the photos, and I think I'm just getting more comfortable in the way I write the copy, and just making it more personal. It's sort of, I think it's starting to, things are just kind of clicking in more in just terms of getting the style of the photos.
Okay. Actually, I'm glad you mentioned that about your pets in the photos, because I did see that. Like, there's a cat in one picture, and the cat's not part of the art, right?
No.
That is so
no,
cute.
No, just trying to give a size reference.
Oh, okay.
Make it more interesting and fun. And
oh, okay. Yeah, I was like, well,
I'm not selling my cat, no.
I know. I know. I was like, well, I like the cat, but
oh no.
I wonder if the cat knows she or he was like in the picture.
Oh yeah.
Nice. So, Mary, if people want to reach out to you, what's the best way they can get in touch with you?
Well, there's lots of ways. I'm my Etsy Convo, or my Facebook page, or on Twitter.
Okay.
Any of those.
Okay. And so I will have links to all these accounts, Mary's Etsy shop, her Facebook page, Twitter, all that in the show notes. So if you want to reach out to her, all the links will be there. And if you have feedback for Mary or about this episode, feel free to go to the website and leave feedback for Mary. I'm sure she'd be happy to hear. I would be happy to hear any feedback that you have. Mary, thank you so much for being my guest on the show. Thank you for being anything but cranky. And
thank you for interviewing me and not being afraid that I'd be cranky.
Actually, I was afraid, but then of course you weren't.
Maybe I should change the name.
No, don't. The name is memorable. All right. And thank you for listening to this episode of the podcast, and I'll be back next week.
Thank you for listening. You can subscribe to the podcast in iTunes, and while you're there, please leave a review too. Visit convome.com to leave a comment or feedback on this episode.